Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Masovitz, always with my favorite co-host, Jen Albanese. Hey, Jen.
Hello, Maury. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Just taking in the weather. It's a little colder today, so
I
trying to
know,
stay a
I
little
know,
warmer. So that's
I
been
know.
been fun.
Making
Staying
me think
busy.
about, yeah, making me think about traveling, going to somewhere warm, our
Yeah, I've been
favorite thing
booking
to
plane
do.
flights recently for trips for our family, so that's been interesting to do.
And
Um,
we all love to fly in this
well, I
family.
I I'm fine with flying. I'm perfectly fine. I can just step onto a flight. My wife and you are a different story.
So, okay, let's explain this. So, I'm afraid, but I do it. It's not like I'm so terrified that I won't step on a plane. I just have massive anxiety knowing that I'm going to be flying. Because,
I mean, you're
obviously
only holding a rosary and saying Mother Mary like 20 times as you're on the flight, and
Yep, yep, yep. And that comes from my mom is like that too. Like my mom, when we would fly when we were kids, she would like hold my hand and we would all hold hands when we were taking off and like say our prayers out loud. And I just thought that was normal, but like obviously it's
no,
not. Obviously that's not.
it's not
Um,
normal.
no, but I guess it's just like I don't love turbulence. I think that's like the part, and nobody really likes
I was just gonna
turbulence.
say, who's like, yes, it's turbulence, and we're up 1,000 feet in the
Well,
air.
I don't think people are like, yes, but like people can just be like, yeah, whatever, and like go to sleep. Like my husband literally just goes to sleep the second he gets on a plane and like
I'm
couldn't
similar.
care if we were like
Yeah.
nose diving. He'd be like asleep. For me, it's like I start feeling the turbulence and I start like gripping the hand, like the armrests, and I'm like, okay, like try to calm myself down. And like, so that's the part I'm not like
Well, I've
thrilled
seen
with
your
when we fly.
husband's arm where there's like marks in his hand where he
Yep.
gets off the plane and it's like completely red, like a smaller
Yep.
hand mark like on top.
Well, when we just flew, it was a little rough because it was like windy when we were like taking off and we were landing, and they were trying to get around bad weather, so it was very bumpy, and I get nervous. I get very nervous. I
I
mean,
know like a lot of people that are like introduce themselves to the pilot, like if they could try and meet the pilot before and like try and
yep.
have a
Like
conversation to like be like,
you have my life in your hands, sir or ma'am. Please
but
keep us safe.
really, like, what's it gonna do? Like, what if you like walk up and they look like they're 15 years old and they're like walking into the plane? Like, is
I
that
know.
gonna really make you feel any better?
No, it's always like my mom would always be like, well, they don't want to go down either. It's not like the pilots are trying to crash the plane. I'm like, that's true. But
That's very reasonable for your mother.
I know, which was
It's a
shocking when she
very
came up
reasonable
with that.
statement that she
I
would come
know.
up with.
I know. I mean, we did have that one time though, like you were with us, Maury. It was a family trip when it was all six of us on the plane, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so I'll start from my side of the story and you can fill in from your portion. So I'm sitting with my husband and I think we were going to New York. I think we were like getting a connecting flight in New
It was a
York
connecting flight.
to go
Yeah.
to California.
Yeah.
So we were flying and I think we were about to like land, and I'm not kidding you. It was like too many planes in the airspace or whatever, but I'm not joking you. And if you're watching this, I'll do it in my hand. But literally the plane was like this and went like this.
So
And
it kind of made a sharp turn for those that are listening to
and
it.
and it felt like we were on our side. Now I know the plane obviously wasn't on its side,
Not
but
even
I'm not
close.
kidding you. People were screaming. I was crying.
You were
'cause I'm
one
like,
of them.
I was crying.
My wife was
Okay.
also not in a
Yeah.
good spot.
I was like, this isn't just me. Okay. So Liz and I were freaking out. And like the stewardess, like the things came, like the compartments came open. And I was like, oh my God, like we're going down. I mean, it was
The
like
only
an
thing
air
that could have made
pocket
it
or
worse if
whatever.
like the mask started dropping down. I can see you like that would be the end. It would have been
It
the
would be the
absolute
end.
that
Let's
would be
not
the
even
absolutely done with.
let's not even ever speak that into existence that's happening. So
Yes, flying
yes.
in our family is not the most pleasant experience, which is okay
No.
because once you get there, you can enjoy your vacation.
Right. But
But
it's always a great story, Maury. Like it
yes, it
always
is
is
a
a great
story.
story. So
It is a story. Well, we might have to talk to our guest today about flying. I know he's flying across the country to lacrosse games, but
yeah.
I don't know if he'll have a
He
horror
travels.
story like
He
that.
definitely travels much more than we do. So,
Probably.
but yes,
Well, Let's get on to it for today. Really excited for our guest, and stick around after these messages. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. And we are so excited for our next guest. Maury, would you like to introduce him?
Absolutely. Today's guest graduated from Syracuse University. He was a 4-time Leonard winner for the men's lacrosse team and a member of the 1995 national championship team, as well as named a 1997 All-American. He went on to be a professional lacrosse athlete playing for the New Jersey Pride. He began his sports broadcasting career with CBS College Sports as an analyst and website coordinator from 2005 to 2009. In 2009, he joined ESPN as a lacrosse game day analyst and sideline reporter. He has become a staple of ESPN lacrosse, both for his coverage of the most popular games on TV and his behind-the-scenes features. Along with his fame for lacrosse coverage, he has also been on college football sideline reporting on top ESPN broadcasts. He is a contributor to Inside Lacrosse Magazine and is president of No Limit Lacrosse. Very excited to welcome to the podcast Paul Carcaterra. Welcome, Paul.
Hi,
Thank
Paul.
you. Hey, excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting when I hear a bio that extensive, like it kind of just brings me back through all the great memories. And man, I'm getting old. I turned 49 this year, so I hear 1997, and I'm seeing pictures of like college lacrosse players that were born in the 2000s. So it's great to be here today, though.
Yeah, well, your name has become synonymous with lacrosse, so it's been awesome watching. I know I started with the lacrosse team back in the day and watching your broadcasting career, so it's been really exciting to connect with you and then have you join us for this today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a wonderful ride, and I attribute so much of it to my days at Syracuse, playing for Coach Roy Simmons Jr. He was the best man outside of my father in my life, in terms of just teaching me people skills and understanding the bigger picture of life's journey. And I think a lot of that can be applied to what I'm doing today too. So I think of all these great memories and where I am and how fortunate I am in life and professionally speaking as well. I owe so much of it to that man, to Syracuse University, because that's really where the foundation was laid. I had a great childhood as well, growing up in Yorktown, New York. It was a big lacrosse town. I always tell people it's like a Indiana basketball or a Texas football, Canadian hockey town. But at Syracuse, it really it took me to another level in terms of just understanding people and spreading my wings and being outside of my normal element that existed from years 1 to 18. So it's great to be here today with you guys.
Well, thank you. And with that lead in, let's get started. What are your tips or tricks for someone that wants to get into the world of college athletics and maybe some of the things that you're doing right now? Or college athletics in general, sorry.
Yeah, I think so much of it, and as I mentioned, my positive experience at Syracuse, it's the people, and it's understanding that when you love athletics and you love the people within athletics, you can't wake up any day expecting this is going to be the day I can accomplish this goal, or I'm going to do this because I want X, Y, or Z to happen as a result. You have to be immersed in it. You have to love the people. And I think the opportunities will arise as a result, authentically, organically. I've just felt like nothing in my life with athletics was a result of one thing I did. It was more of a result of all the things I did and just my passion for where I am and my passion for people and wanting to be around that team culture. And I think that's why I've been able to have some success, is just being a team player. And I think anyone who even works with me today knows that I don't have an ego. It's not about me. I'm willing to do the small things. I don't treat anyone different from the person who might be running cables and it's their first day at work, or the producer or coordinating producer of the sport. You treat people with a ton of respect. You love what you do, And you can't be outcome oriented. You have to be journey oriented and just understand like you're doing this because you love it. And the experiences every day will be so rewarding that ultimately, if you're good at it, I always say if you put a lot of effort into something, you care for people, and you're willing to do the small things, like you're going to land on your feet and you're going to do great things. If you go into something, and in this case it's athletics, and you say like, I'm going to this event because I want this to happen, you're going to fail. Like you can't think like that. You have to think big picture and just be totally immersed in the people and the team aspect of what athletics are.
I find it like interesting because when you're up at Syracuse and you're broadcasting, and some people do it, but you definitely always are, like you are always down on the field pregame. You're always talking to everybody, like connecting. And I think I don't get to watch the broadcasts as they're happening because I'm also working most of the time, but looking back, like you can kind of see like that connection that you have with people, which I think is really great, that you like can tell like you've got information from them, you have a relationship with them, and it so much adds to what's going on for the people at home.
I would agree with you. I also think like when I prepare for the broadcasts, 90% of the stuff that I prepare for won't even get into the broadcast, right? Like there's so many things that you have laid out, but you have to be willing to put forth all the effort. And when I'm doing a game, if I could get to practice logistically the day before, I love doing that. And those moments, those like non-formal moments are gold because like you establish a connection with the player, and maybe he or she's a freshman. And then your sophomore year, you have a little bit more confidence in the relationship. And then they start confiding you, not like game plan wise, but just to give you the little subtle things of where they are, where the team is. And, I just feel like there's so many moments when you're on a field, you're at practice, and you're doing more than just studying the tape or analyzing the stats. Those are the golden moments because I feel like those also happen naturally. And it's not planned. Like once a broadcast begins for me, specifically in lacrosse, because my role in lacrosse is different than football. Football, I'm a reporter, and obviously my time in the broadcast is carved out differently. Where in lacrosse, as an analyst, it's free flowing, and I'm part of the broadcast the entire game. I find like the best golden moments in broadcasting are the ones that you don't prepare for. But because of your experiences in the sport and because of your relationships with people, they just naturally happen. And I've been doing it for so long, and I love the sport. Even when I was a little boy, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I used to read all the media guides. And honestly, I bring up some of that stuff today. Like if we're talking about championship teams, like I could talk about Cornell's teams in the 70s with Eamon McEnany and Mike French, or, the Carolina team in 86 with Joey Seibold, or the three-peat with the Gates in 88, 89, 90. Like those things come naturally to me because I've always been so immersed in the game.
Yeah.
And I find like those are the golden moments. It's the practices. It's talking to the people. It's reading random stuff that you don't even need to read maybe for that game, but it's just all encompassing.
Yeah.
It's you said the relationship building. I feel like that can go across any part of athletics, but it's like if people are willing to build a relationship with you, like they build that trust in you, and they're going to, like you said, they're going to tell you things. And I think that's so key. That's so key.
Yeah. Relationships are everything in every field. I mean, my younger brother's in commercial real estate. I mean, like, at the end of the day,
all about relationships.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the
all
day,
about that. Yeah,
people are selling buildings, right? And when they think of a building or a space that needs to be either sold, leased, or bought, like when you have a great relationship with someone who's in that field, like that's the person that comes to mind. Like,
right.
Oh, I'm going to use Brian Carcaterra here because he's a great guy and we have a great relationship, and I know he's going to do right by me. He's a good person,
right?
And I think that's the main thing too. Like there's like the authentic relationships, and then there's the ones that you just know, like this person is trying to build this relationship because they want X,
something.
Y, or Z.
Right,
right. Like I look at my life right now. I mean, I'm pretty happy. I don't feel like I want to do anything more in terms of where I am professionally. With like game coverage and what have you. Like if you told me, you can leave lacrosse and you could call the World Series in baseball. I'm like, no way. Like I'm where I want to be. I love lacrosse. I would never leave lacrosse. So for me, I'm not trying to build any relationships to be in a better situation. Like I'm where I want to be. I'm calling the national championship game. So where my motivation comes from is like to be better, like to do it better, to have people enjoy it more, to spend time with people and build those relationships, because it's a critical piece for so many people that love our game. And I'm just using lacrosse as an example. Like I feel obligated to the lacrosse world when I'm calling lacrosse throughout the season and championship season, like to put the best product on the table. And I feel like I'm better in 2024 than I was in 2013. So that's where my motivation comes from. So I'm never going to like just try to angle and get involved in a relationship because I want to be doing something else.
Awesome.
That was so many tips all in one.
I was going to say, we're like crunched in, so I don't know if we're on our second or third, or just make sure you get everything in that you want to say. So I guess we can say second, but we can always jump if we need to. So what else do you think could contribute to someone that wants to jump into a field of whether it's broadcasting or even get into the lacrosse world?
I think as I get older, and I try to remind myself all the time, is just be a really good listener. And I think that can be applied to any field. We all feel like the more that you can talk, the more that you have the answers, the smarter you are. Like the smartest people are the greatest listeners, right? Like they just listen, they soak things in, they don't rush to judgment. Maybe they have an answer for you today, maybe they have it tomorrow, maybe they have it in 3 weeks, or maybe they never have it too, because a lot of people don't have the answers. That's okay not to have the answers. So I would say, like, being a great listener is so critical in any field, because I think you're just going to take in more information, but it's also going to be like a calming effect to being around someone. Like when you sit there and you talk to someone and they're totally attentive to what you're saying and they listen to you, and maybe they subtly ask a question here or there, but it's not just about like enforcing their thoughts or their opinions on you. I think being a great listener is like the gold in terms of growing as a person. And I try to remind myself all the time, like, you will be better at what you do. You'll be a better person if you listen more. And it's okay when someone asks you a question that you could just straight up say, I don't know. I don't have the answer for it. Like, that's not a dumb thing to say. Sometimes it's smarter than just like coming up with some stuff that's not relevant. And you could apply that into broadcasting. Like, so many times I'm asking questions. Like, I love to storytell. That's probably my passion within sports. Yeah. So with lacrosse, I do the game coverage, which is fantastic. But I had a thought in my mind probably 10, 12 years ago. I was on a chairlift in Utah, out there snowboarding. It's a great hobby of mine. And I was just thinking, I was like, I'm calling these games in lacrosse, and I feel like the games are great, but we don't get to know the people as much, and we don't get to know the subject, which are the players. So I made it like a strong effort of mine from that point on to storytell more, to do features, to do sit downs, so we can learn more about the people within the game. And that's something I'm really proud of. So I feel like when I storytell, when I sit down and I talk to someone, the more I listen, the better the interview is, because I have follow-up questions where I use my instincts and I don't just rely on 5 questions that I'm getting in there and they're canned, right? Like someone might say something when I sit down that's really interesting, and they might say, well, this was a massive struggle in my life. Like, rather than me jumping to the next question, I could just follow up with the simple why. Why was it a massive struggle, right? Like, so I think listening can be applied in terms of just being a better person and growing as an individual. But in terms of my profession, listening, I think, is one of the most critical things ever. Like, I listen to people when I'm talking to them, even in college football. If I'm asking a coach a question, I'll bag that second question and follow up with something that they said where I think there was like a ramp to go, right? Like there's a ramp here where I should just say, you know what, that second question about the defense is less important than me following up on something he gave me a little bit of, and I want more. So I think just it's so critical that we understand that, like, listening's a massive tool. It's it's basically food for our thoughts. It's tremendous. And I think it's really hard as a young person to do it. As you get older, you realize, it's not about you as much. And I think it's natural and it's great. Like for me, there were certain things in life, right? Like I was in college and I was part of a team and I was able to accomplish great things. And, being a captain was a major accomplishment of mine in 1997. There was only two of us. I did it with my best friend, who was my childhood best friend as well. We shared everything together. And when I got, to the young professional stages of my life, from 22 to 30, I was just kind of it was like, not in a bad way, but it was very selfish because I was just worried about like what I was going to be able to do, where I was going to be able to go. And I say selfish, but not in a negative way.
Yeah.
But then as I've gotten older, it's less about me and it's more about the people that I interact with. And I think listening is a massive tool for that.
Yeah, I feel like your eyes start, like the older you get, your eyes start opening up to the stuff around you that you didn't even like realize. Like I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Like my early career was very much more about like, oh, like how are people interpreting me, more concerned about me. And now it's more like, well, what can I do for them, or what are they like, how to look outwardly a little bit more. And it feels like a natural progression.
That's a great point. When I was younger and in the field, people were like, oh, that's so-and-so. Like he or she is a coordinating producer of football. Like now I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Nice person. Like good person. Awesome. But I think, being a parent is part of losing some of that for me. And I also have I have a special needs son who's 16, Grayson. He's autistic. Like he's a life project for my wife and I. So we have a lot on our plate there, but he's a great gift because like, I don't stress about, I don't know if you'd call it normal stuff, but like when I go on air or I'm doing things or I've had to, track down a coach who's maybe a little ticked off and doesn't want to talk, that's fine. I don't really stress about any of that stuff. And I think he gives me a lot of that strength because I see how he lives every day. I see his struggles. It's hard on us too. So it's given me great perspective.
Yeah. Awesome.
You don't sweat the small stuff as much, you don't. And you're right. When you become a parent, like I have two kids and it's like, whew, some of the stuff you used to worry about when you were younger, like Maury said, like what people think of you.
To get through the day. You live to fight another day. That's my dad always used to say. Get him to
bed by 8:30 and you're like, whew, we survived.
Yeah. And my mom, both my parents had passed. I was so close with both of my parents. My dad would always say, you live to fight another day. My mom would say, what's the fuss? Like, okay. Like, little Johnny broke the window in the house. It's not the end of the world. You're going to get a new window. Like, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It does. Perspective is huge. So
yeah.
Well, I think we're on like number 4 now. I'm trying to keep track because you've given us more than probably anyone could give in a 20-minute segment. But what would be like a 4th tip you'd have for someone?
I think, and this doesn't just go with broadcasting or my profession. I just think in general, I think you need to be true to yourself and you need to also be true to people and tell people how you feel. Like, I think the world is getting a little bit more sensitive to people's understanding of how they value themselves and the ups and downs of a journey individually, as a family, as friends. So I think it's really important to express yourself. And it's okay to tell people like the answer no, or I'm having a bad day. I think we all try to be perfect, right? Like, last night it could be a shitstorm at my house. But like if I had to go on this Zoom at 10 minutes after things were all over the place, I'd probably have to keep it together. But I think it's important for people to understand that no one's perfect. Like everyone is dealing with things. Everyone is dealing with stress. Everyone is dealing with anxiety. We all try to like have this perception of ourselves and for people to think that, we have it all figured out. We don't have it all figured out. So I think like as I've gotten older, I think it's okay to say no. Like it's okay to say no if it's going to make you feel a little bit better and you deal with whatever you're dealing with in your life, because you have to have that kind of balance. So as I've gotten older, I say no to a lot of things. Like if I don't have the bandwidth to do it, for me, jamming it in, no one's going to benefit from it. I don't benefit from it because I'm stressed. My family doesn't benefit because they see me less. You wouldn't benefit from it because you wouldn't get the whole me in a conversation like this. So I think it's really important to be true to yourself and to understand, like, you're not perfect. No one expects you to be perfect. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say you're having a bad day. I do that from time to time. I'm going to be honest. People are like, hey, Paul, what's going on? I'm like, today's a disaster. Like, they know I'm a positive person by nature. So it's not like I'm the negative person. I'm not negative Neil here, where I'm just negative every single day. But when I'm not having a great day, I'll tell people, like, it's a disaster. Like, my kid's just nuts today. I can't handle him. So I think it's okay. And I think people actually gravitate towards, like, vulnerability. Like, you can be vulnerable. It's okay. Like, it's so, and I think, as I've gotten older, I care less about being perfect. But when you're younger, it's really hard. Like, you're starting off in a profession. You want people to think you have everything figured out. You have your shit together. Like, you don't. No one has it totally together. You might be a really organized person, but it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not have this image that is flawless, right? Like, I'm proud of my background. I'm proud of the fact that, like, I was raised by two amazing people, and we didn't have much. Like, there were 6 of us. We grew up in a 1,200 square foot home in Yorktown, New York. My dad was a school teacher in the South Bronx. It was the poorest congressional district in America. My mom stayed home with the kids because she had 4. Like, we were grinding just to get through. My dad worked summer jobs to send us to camps, and, like, the one thing that he taught us was just to be a really good person and to care about others. Like someone else has feelings on the backside of that. So, like, embrace those person's feelings. It's just the way that he raised us. Like, we were so fortunate. We were exposed to a lot. So, like, he was working in the inner city in the Bronx in New York, and we'd go to camp in the summertime, and we would see the struggles that some of those people had there. We would see the diversity, and we embraced it as kids, and we paid it forward. Like, when my dad passed away, like, we're really active in Bronx lacrosse and giving kids opportunities that wouldn't have them. And we have a scholarship in his name where we're sending dozens of kids to high school at Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx under his scholarship and the family scholarship, and giving those kids opportunities because that's the way he taught us. Like, it's about people. Like, as hard as we might have had it, there's people that were grinded and had it way harder than us.
Yeah.
Like, we were able to do things. We always had food on our table. We took a vacation once in a while. They weren't glorious, but we figured a way to do it. But you have to understand there's someone on the other side. Like, it's not just about you. Tap into those people's feelings. Put an arm around someone sometimes when they have a bad day. And, I think I have some friends that feel really comfortable with me. Sometimes it's too much, and I feel like I'm a therapist. but at the end of the day, like, they can confide in me because they know, like, they're in a safe place because I try to care about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're real. Like, you said about honesty. Being honest is going to get you so much farther than BSing with people. Like, people are going to respect you more if you're honest and feel more comfortable with you when you can tell them the truth. Believe me, Maury and I tell each other all the time we're having shitty days. Like, we'll say that all the time.
I'll tell you the other part of it too, Paul. Like, when you walk into the Dome, no one from the custodian would not go and say hi to you because that's who you would moat. Like, you're yourself, you're honest, you're open to people, and
approachable.
Approachable. Like,
thing,
I think that's so. And not that people are bad or other people just do it differently, but, like, I do give credit to you because you make yourself available to everyone. And it kind of just, like you said, you can be honest and say, hey, I'm having a crappy day, because everyone feels like they know you already before they even say hi to you. So.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. You can't take yourself too seriously too. Like, a lot of people come up to me and it's like, it's a little awkward, like in the lacrosse world, or if I'm at a youth tournament or something, a lot of people will come up to me and, like, they think I'm like a big deal. And I'm like, I'm really not. I'm really not. And I think they're surprised. Like, I'm asking them more questions than they're asking me sometimes. It's just, you can't take yourself too seriously. And if you do enjoy success in any field, just realize who you are at your roots, at your core. And people will appreciate that a lot more. And I think some people, and I've seen this in my field too, like as they start getting bigger, like they have bigger demands and there's very high maintenance. And it's just, to me, it's an awful quality, because at the end of the day, when they cart you off, my grandmother told me this when I was a little kid, when they cart you off in a pine box one day, people aren't going to think about like how great of a job you had, or like they won't think of the cars that you drove. They won't think of, how crazy your house was in terms of, just how big or what have you. They're going to think about how you made them feel. Like that is it at its core. Like how did that person make me feel? Like go through the back of your mind, anyone who you loved that has passed away, ask yourself that question. Like when you say, this person, what do I remember about this person? And you do that exercise in your head, you too, about people that you love that have passed away. Yeah. You're going to think instantly, how did they make me feel? That's the most important thing. Not any car they drove or any type of job title they had. It's just going to be like, wow, this person really affected me in a great way because of this. And it will come back to how they made you feel.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Okay, Jen, time for the last question.
All right. So, Paul, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew at the beginning?
That's a good question. Career-wise?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, like I'll do it twofold. If you brought me back to my real young days, knowing what I know now, anytime my parents were hard on me, or anytime they made me do something, I realize now 100% unequivocally it was because they wanted the best for me. So as a parent now, I'm always telling my kids, specifically my daughter, because for my son, it's like in one ear right out the other. When I sit down and I talk to my daughter, like I want her to know almost, as a kid, how I looked at it and how I look at it now and why I'm doing it, right? Because I wish I could rewind, and there were some moments as a kid, I was like, why did I act like that? Like, why did I do that? I should have just embraced my parents more, or like never been embarrassed. Like when my mom's sitting there waiting in the, outside of the middle school, the 8th grade dance, I'm like, don't park there. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, go over there. Like, come on, really? Like, there's those moments. So it's kind of twofold. So as a kid, I wish I could go back and give my kid a taste of that, knowing what the journey really is and should be, and how parents always put their kids' best interests forward and first. But I think as a professional, what I know now is, I'm consistently striving to learn and to figure out things. But I would say work smarter, not harder. Like if I could go back and tell myself certain things, like I think being in the moment is more important than anything you could do preparation wise. So like I think as I continued to grow as a professional in my field, I probably do less prep and more time of actually being in the moment, right? Yeah. So like in the early stages, I might like prep a ton and then feel like all those things need to get into the broadcast, or like all those things have to work. So now I feel like it's more important to be in the moment, like to be where my feet are, because those are the true golden moments. That's not to say I'm not prepared. Like I'm always going to be prepared, but I think I spent way too much time trying to have everything figured out. And while I was working, stressed about getting all of that stuff in. So I think the balance has changed now, where I do less and I'm way more attentive to like what's going on now. And that takes precedent over anything that I could prepare. Now I'm in a space where, like for lacrosse, I live lacrosse 365 days a year. So it's easy for me to fall back on being in the moment, because I have so much of a bandwidth and I have so much previous knowledge in the history of the game and everything that's happened, especially in the modern game of lacrosse. So like I can go back on that.
You got your 10,000 hours in.
Yeah, exactly. But football, I continue to grow there, but I do have a decent amount of knowledge, but not even close to lacrosse. So I have to prepare a little bit more. But even in that case, I'm trying to tell myself, prepare a little bit less and take the stress off it, where I don't have to know every single thing, and then apply more towards being in the moment, like interacting more with individuals when the game is going on, being really attentive for those types of things. So I think it's a balance, and it's a pendulum that's kind of switched and shifted in my life.
Well, this has been awesome. You are a great guest, a great guy just to be around. So we're so happy to have you join us, and we're looking forward to continue to seeing some great broadcasts, lacrosse, football, wherever else you land. Seeing at the Dome. So.
No, thank you so much. I love this format too, because I think you do a lot of podcasts over the years, and so much of them are just going over the stages. But I think of your life and of your career. But I think this is a great tool for just people in general to hear other perspective, because I think so much of what I do is I love to hear how people think, and I love other people's advice. And you have to take advice that works for you and your personality and your characteristics. But even if you take little bits and pieces of things, it's opportunity for individuals.
I think the biggest surprise to Jen and I is what we're seeing is that you can see a guy that's an architect at doing athletic work, or you can see a person that runs a stadium or doing what you do, and you can drive that into what you're doing, and how it connects to everything has been kind of one of the biggest exciting parts for us. So this has been a great experience for us as well. So
and when
awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Paul.
Anytime.
Well,
take care.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and make sure to follow us on all your favorite platforms, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.